Hey everybody, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the kitchen of the Grow Together homestead, where I'm working on going through some of my upcycling to figure out what I can use best in the next upcoming weeks to better start my seeds and get my garden planting going. Now, this may look like I'm just dealing with a whole bunch of junk here, but as the saying goes, one man's trash is another one's treasure, and nothing could be truer when it comes to how some of these items can be used in your garden. I'm not advocating that you go out and do some dumpster diving, okay? What I am saying is that you may be putting things away into your garbage or into your recyclings that could actually potentially be used to give it another little life. It's not hoarding if it's growing something, right? So I'll give you a couple examples of little bits of upcycling that we do here on our homestead. Number one, which most of you are probably very aware of because this is how most of you have come to this channel, is the milk jug planting. What I do is I take these 1 gallon jugs and turn them into wonderful little seed starting kits out in the garden. I put them out in the snowbanks starting in February, and by the time it's time for spring planting to come along, I have got some wonderful little seedlings. I love it because not only am I reusing something before I recycle it, I will recycle this after one season of use in the garden, but it's also reducing my energy costs significantly and my work because I do not have to worry about lights inside. I don't have to worry about all that excess watering that I have to do. It saves me a ton of time too. So if you haven't seen the milk jug ones, take a look on the channel. There's tons about that. Another great container for that type of purpose are these wonderful water bottles. These water cooler bottles are not only great for winter sowing, they're really, really great for something called winter sowing in place. Stuff that's grown into these type of water bottles, these bottles are big enough that the plants don't need to be transplanted. Here's one that I used last year. I'm recycling it this year. I'm going to be taking it to the recycling depot soon. So it basically spent a year growing something in my garden, and now it's going to hit the recycling. So often the ideas behind upcycling are not only are you reducing your costs, because see, this here was a wonderful pot. I didn't have to buy it. It's a good sized pot to grow something in, but it's taking advantage of that. One of the R's, you know, the whole 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, we're reusing in upcycle cases here. Here are a few other ones that you maybe haven't seen before. Another type of upcycling that I do almost every day in the winter is I grow a lot of microgreens, and I find that the best thing to grow that in are these awesome little berry clamshells that you get from the produce market. I don't buy berries from the supermarket very often anymore, but my friends know that I use these every day. So they actually gather them for me. And I know that they feel much better knowing that the stuff that would normally just have one use is now going to have, I'll be able to use this a few times to grow microgreens before I then go to recycle it. So even if you don't do things like drink milk or have water cooler bottles or buy strawberries from the supermarket, your friends probably do. You probably do know people who do. And once people know that you're into this stuff, they're often relieved to be able to give that to someone because they're feeling guilty about using these single-use plastics and you're using it again for them. Now, another favorite one, and I do eat a lot of yogurt, I don't have a dairy cow or goat, are these yogurt containers. These can be cut up and made into wonderful little garden tags. I grow a lot every year, and if I were to go out and buy little plastic tags, I'd be spending more money on that than I do on seeds, I think. But with one of these yogurt containers, it's very, very quick and easy to do. There's whole videos about it if you do need a step-by-step tutorial. I can create 12 to 14 tags in a couple of minutes, and I can still recycle the bottom and top of this. These tags are wonderful and basically almost exactly the same material as I would have gone to go purchase if I went to a garden store. It does have writing on one side, but that's one thing that I have sort of gotten over. I'm more concerned about something being practical than being pretty, and sometimes these things can be both. For instance, when this is planted up, it can be quite beautiful when you have a bunch of flowing flowers coming off of it. See, check this out. That took seconds. And now I have a ton of wonderful little tags that I can use in my garden. So that's another little upcycling thing that you could use there. I'm sure many of you have yogurt and sour cream containers and things like that you could upcycle into some garden tags. Another one, another plastic recycling. And not everything here is plastic, but let's face it, our society uses a ton of plastics. And until we get beyond that, let's make the most of that plastic before it gets recycled. I use these Feta containers as seed carriers, so when I'm going out into the garden. I do tend to store my seeds in sleeves, in a binder, but when I know I'm gonna go out and plant, I like to take them out in these hard plastic containers because I think I'm gonna put them all away right away once I've used the pack in the garden. But I also know the reality is sometimes I'm gonna be called at the chicken coop or whatever. I could put the lid on that and leave it out in the garden. And if I forget about it for a couple of days, no biggie. If it accidentally gets watered, no biggie. These are gonna keep my seeds safe until they can be put back into their permanent storage. Another thing that I use a lot of in the garden, especially for my trailing and vining stuff, is I don't throw away my socks. Okay, socks, if they're cut up, make excellent garden ties because they're soft enough to not damage your plant. They have a nice amount of give and they're easy to tie. And guess what? They can be, once you're done with a season of them, they can all be stuffed into a pillowcase or a mesh bag and washed and reused again. These can be used several times. My tomatoes love them, okay, because they're nice and soft. I don't have to go out and buy that stuff. I do put holes in socks, and so does the rest of my family, and this way it gets another use. Another thing that we use, and maybe this one won't apply to most of you, but for those of you who do live on a farm and have livestock and have feed bags, some feed bags are not appropriate for this, but this is one that works really great. These ones that are sort of papery. What I do is I save these throughout the year. I use them for several purposes in the garden, which I can show you later on when the garden is up and running. But one of the things I do early in the season is I fill this full of a good quality soil, I poke holes in the bottom, and once I've done that, I can start planting my chitted potatoes in there. These can make really great potato growing bags. I've been doing that for a few seasons now, and yes, I still do put potatoes in the ground, but what I do is I set a couple of those up in the greenhouse once it starts getting heated, and I can have an early start on my new potatoes. So I hope that was helpful. I just wanted to run through a few things. Wanted to give you sort of a springing off point if you haven't started doing this. I'm sure you guys have some fabulous ideas yourselves. I would love to hear them. Please do put them in the comment section of this video, as I do love to hear what you guys are up to as well. Or if you have some questions about some of the stuff that I've used here, I'd also love to hear from you. Please do subscribe if you're interested in keeping up with the milk jug planting schedule and all of our critters and our bees and everything else we have going on here. And as always, I hope you'll take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.